as I was collecting the Zeiss camera, the Werra kept coming up, and I thought, well, it's also badged Carl Zeiss, so why not collect those? And you know how it is, you buy one, then you see another one, you think, oh, I think I'll have that, then another one, and then another one, and before you know it, you've got about 13, and after that, I sort of couldn't find any more, so the collection is still there. But they're very interesting cameras, really, and they're quite unique. Werra cameras were made at a Zeiss factory in Eisfeld. This factory was built during the war as a firearms plant, and the centralized planners of the East German economy awarded this plant to Carl Zeiss Werra, and it was decided to use this to make mechanical parts. Eventually, it was decided that to make the complete cameras, and the Werra evolved. The name Werra comes from a river which runs through the town. Manufacture started in 1954, and the cameras are of a unique design, featuring the film wind and the shutter-cocking mechanism. This is done by rotating the ring around the lens shutter assembly. Also unique is the hood, which covers the lens when not in use and which converts into a lens hood. The disc at the base of this is easily lost and really is essential for collectible cameras. Later on, the models 3, 4, and 5 had interchangeable front lens elements. Some models are much rarer than others, and the range extends from a simple point and shoot right up to the fully automatic models with interchangeable lenses, rangefinder and auto exposure. The design changed in 1964 when a different top cover arrived. Two colors were available, the earlier cameras being mostly olive green, but in 1957 black came in by popular demand. There are a few dates which are significant. The black covering was available from 1960, the flat top version went out in 61 and was followed by the rounded top in 1962. The accessory shoe was added in 1964. Various shutters were used, most of which were made in East Germany. The cheapest version was the Verbur, which had 8 speeds up to 1/250th. The most common shutter is the Presto RVS in 2 versions. The cheaper had speeds up to 1/500th and the better one up to 1/750th. The rarest are the cameras with Compor Rapid and Synchro Compor. Due to the dispute between Carl Zeiss Jena in East Germany and Zeiss Econ in the West, the supply from the West stopped and the shutters were then made in the East. I notice on one of my cameras, on the shutter, there's the little pentagon symbol, which is a schematic version of the Ernemann factory, which I visited back in about 2016. And it was very interesting that this iconic building actually survived the bombing in Dresden, but it's still there and it's now a museum dedicated to Zeiss. And it's also a cultural center. Coming to the cameras, I had a lot of help from Rudi Hillebrand of Photo Deal, and he sent me this picture, which I think really shows all the 20 cameras that he knows about, and probably that is all of them. I won't read them all out because it's a bit boring, but the most important one really is the one at the bottom right-hand corner, which is the Supermat. And as far as I managed to find out, this isn't in the McCowan book, and it never actually went onto the market. But Rudolph managed to acquire one from somewhere. I've just made a few notes which I found. The Werra is an improved Werra 5 with no accessory shoe. The Werra E is the final version with a new front panel and accessory shoe, both a coupled rangefinder and exposure meter. The Werra is a cheaper version without rangefinder or interchangeable lens or accessory shoe, and the Werra E is the same with the updated front panel. The Werra Supermat shown in the picture is interesting, as according to McCown, it was never marketed and was only a short series of test models were made, but yet Rudy managed to acquire a picture of it, a bit of a puzzle. So I am grateful to Rudy for the help that he gave me. Then coming to my collection itself, this is the various simplest version of the Werra 1. As you can see, the ring around the lens is what actually winds the shutter. So it really impressed me of the mechanics of how they managed to link that really quarter turn to wind the film, set the shutter, and change the exposure counter. As a very ingenious bit of engineering. This one has got the 2.8 Tessa, and it has the best shutter available, which is up to 1/750th. Although I'm inclined to think that speed is probably a bit more fictitious than real. The next one that I have is a Werra 1E, which is a later version, which has got the accessory shoe on the top, and it's now got a new front plate. But it still only is a very simple camera, just a viewfinder and nothing else. Then there's another variant that I have of a 1E, which the only difference is that it says Zeiss Werra under the Werra 1, and apparently that is a bit rarer, so I've kept it in the collection when it actually turned up in a lot of cameras that I bought, and this was among them. Then moving on to the Werra 2s. Now, the main difference between the 1 and the 2 is the uncoupled exposure meter, which you can see on the left of the front plate. The first version of this came in 1954 and lasted till 1956. This example has an f2.8 Tessa in a Verbur shutter, which of course is the cheapest and simplest. It has a built-in uncoupled selenium cell meter with a calculator disc on the back of the camera. This one is in green. This is really one of my rarest cameras. It's a Werra 2 in green, and as you can see, it's got the synchro compose shutter, which they only managed to use for a short time, because at the time, I think there were disputes going on between East and West over the use of trademarks. And obviously, when this got serious, the supply of synchro compose shutters stopped, and then they started making the Presto and Verbur shutters in the Dresden factory. The next variation is the Werra 3. This is one shown in green. This dates from 1955 and has a coupled rangefinder instead of an exposure meter. The lens again is the 2.8 Tessa, and it has a Presto RVS shutter up to 1/500th. Then another version of the Werra 3, which came in 1964, and you can see this one's got the new top plate, which is now rounded instead of square, and it's actually got an accessory shoe. Slightly earlier cameras had the rounded plate, but no accessory shoe. Why it was so difficult to fit an accessory shoe, I don't know, because basically that is quite useful, especially for putting a flash gun on. This is a late version 1964, lasted till 1966. All had the 2.8 Tessa. This one has an interchangeable front element, and it has the Presta RVS 1/750th shutter. Then the next camera that came along was the Werra 4. This is one shown in green. It's still got the square top plate. This was introduced in 1960. The Model 4 has both a built-in uncoupled exposure meter and a coupled rangefinder. The front element is interchangeable, and it has the Presta RVS up to 1/500th. But, you can see that from a very simple point-and-shoot camera, they managed to fit the same basic body, fitting in the exposure meter and the rangefinder, and managing to couple it to the front self-focusing. Then the final one, and this one's quite hard to get, is the Model 5. This dates from 1960, has a coupled exposure meter and a coupled rangefinder, and again with the front element interchangeable lens, and the shutter is the Presta RVS. I managed to buy this from I bought it I think in the Frome Camera Fair, and unfortunately it was sold to me on the basis that the coupled exposure meter doesn't work. But I'm not really surprised, because most of the cameras that I've got with selenium cell exposure meters don't work very well anymore. So I was quite happy to pay the rather high price that he wanted for it. Then from then on we moved to a different series where they started some automation come in, the Werra Matte in black. This is the Werra Matte E. Again, this ran from 1960 till 66. It's got matched needle exposure meter, a Presta RVS shutter, and for some reason a non-interchangeable lens. Another variation is the Werra Matte Black. This was the top of the range and ran from 61 till 66. Camera has a coupled rangefinder, coupled exposure meter, and interchangeable lens. The lens is the usual Tessa, and the shutter's the Pronto RVS. Then finally, to complete the collection, I managed to get both of the lenses. They all came in a very nice fitted case from one source, where obviously someone had bought them and used them, and I was quite pleased to get the whole kit. It was quite a high price, but as the lenses are fairly rare, I was quite happy to pay it. There are two of them. The one is a 100mm f4, and the other is a 35mm f2.8. And the 35mm is the rarer one. And I'm afraid that is about all that I can offer you on Werra, which is all that I know.